Phil Karubius here.
Mike Schlossberg's here.
Scott Cheevely's here.
Noah Demarest is here.
That's everybody. And it looks like Kira just jumped into for application number 3.
Okay.
Hi, Kira.
Can I move to open the meeting? Is that the next thing?
We're open. I'll call the meeting to order. We have 3 variances that we'll look at today. First one we're going to look at is 6 Bradley Street. You said Mark is here?
Hi, I'm here.
Yes.
All right. Let me see. Mark, tell us what you want to do in a succinct way.
Okay. So we have an existing outbuilding on the parcel. We estimate it's about 10 to 12 feet from the property line. That's about the best we can figure. According to Tom Myers, it was too close to the property line to make it into a chicken coop, basically. We actually want to go a step further than just using that building, but we actually want to build the outside part of the run off of that chicken coop toward the neighboring property at McClellan Street. Forgetting the number offhand, is it 38? It's the house on the corner of McClellan and Bradley, the former Airbnb, former B&B, the McClellan house. So we are hoping. Oh, there's
that's 30 McClellan.
Thank you, 30 McClellan, and the owner and resident of 30 McClellan, Guy, joined the call as well. So basically, to go back, the 2 families who live at 6 Bradley and 30 McClellan are planning to raise chickens together, and there's a portion of property that sort of between our yards that I think previous owners seem to have sort of junked up. There's a lot of sort of stuff just under the surface there, so it's not really useful for very much. And we're hoping to build a 16 by 16 by 8 foot high chicken run off of the existing accessory building at 6 Bradley in the direction of 30 McClellan, and it would probably go right up to the property line. So we would obviously need a variance for that. And if you have any questions about sort of the conversations that we've had as the owners of the houses, or plans for construction or plans for deconstruction if necessary, we could talk all about that.
So let me ask a couple of questions. So the chicken coop, you're looking to use an existing building?
We're looking at using existing building for the inside portion of the coop, for where we put the laying boxes, and then add an outside portion.
And the present building is large enough to accommodate the 6 chickens with as the code is written?
Yes, it is.
And you said that's like about 10 feet from the property line?
Yeah, 10 to 12.
Okay, because the code calls for 10 feet.
Right.
For the coop, but then you want to expand the run toward the property line.
Correct. So
we cross the property line?
I think it might cross the property line by a foot or 2, but we could probably adjust the plans. If that was like a big part of it, we could probably adjust the plan so it didn't actually cross the property line. Although if you came and saw that part of the property, you'd see how sort of insignificant that is based on what that part of both properties looks like.
Okay. Other questions from the board right now for the applicant?
No, I don't have a question.
No, for me.
Nope.
I have none.
I have a technicality.
Yeah.
In the chicken ordinance, it says coops and runs must be in the rear or side yard of the property of which structures are to be located, no closer than 10 feet to the property lines.
Right.
So the run, it sounds like the coop itself may not violate that, but the run certainly would.
Correct.
So I think that's what you're going to have to consider.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah, that's what.
Oh, go ahead.
That's what I was understanding it to be. And then the second question would be the problem of it going over the property line would be, I know there's an agreement here for shared services. But that could become a problem if the 30 McClellan, if they sell the property and there's a chicken coop on the new owner's property.
Of course, of course.
Yeah. So
I thought it might be prudent for the two families to enter into agreement if one family sells the property that the other, there would be sort of you have to remove it if somebody says you have to, like if one of the families says you have to. I don't know.
It would seem more pertinent to grant any variance to a single property rather than to two. That way, you can enter into whatever agreement with your neighbor is convenient, but that's between you and them. And this way, the variance is only with one property.
So in order for that to happen, the entire run would have to stay within our property, even if it went right up to the edge.
that might be the most prudent thing. The other thing, Tom, I have a question for you, Tom. The chicken permit is renewed every year. Is that correct?
Correct. Renewed. There has to be a request for renewal every year. So that's why this fail safe.
Yeah, so that would be an opportunity. I'm thinking about that because in variances, they tend to stick with the property for the lifetime. But so in the case where here we're granting a variance, if we grant a variance, it goes all the way to the property line, and a new owner comes into the adjoining property on a yearly basis, that could be addressed. The new owner says, I don't like this being that close, and then it could be addressed.
Sure.
My concern is because when we give a variance, it sticks with the property, and that might be a concern with this kind of an approach of what we're talking about.
Okay, so yes.
So that's a renewal where at least it gets looked at on an annual basis. Board members, you have, we should probably open it for public comment.
Yes, please.
Can I have a motion for public comment?
I move to open public comment.
I'll second
Can I have
that.
a second? And we got a second. All in favor say, what's that?
I need to know who was first. Everybody talked at the same time.
I was first. I
Bill,
made the
thank you.
motion.
And I think I seconded it.
So to clear things up
That
for
would-
those who may not be seeing every face, mention your name as you make your motion or second.
Thank you.
Okay. So Phil
All
made
right,
that
so
a motion.
Phil and Mike.
Yes,
Yep.
I made the motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Tim says aye.
Phil
Aye.
says aye.
That says aye.
Mike says aye.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody available out there who'd like to make public comment? Give us your name and you have 3 minutes. I guess there's no one. Can I have a motion to close public comment?
I'll move to close public comment. Phil said that.
Can I have a second?
Noah seconds.
No seconds. All in favor say aye. Tim says aye.
Phil says aye.
Mike says aye.
Noah says
Anyone
aye.
Yeah.
opposed? Okay.
All set. Thank you.
Public comment is closed. Gentlemen, what are you thinking?
I just have a question for Tom. You sent the chicken ordinance out today, right?
Yes.
I'm trying to find the ordinance and
It's also on the village website.
maybe I
Yeah.
should go to the website.
And I have a paper copy in front of me, so if you need any specific question answered from it, I could probably find it.
Well, my question was on this. Is there a square footage requirement for the chicken coop and for the run?
There's a minimum square footage for the coop, which is, I think it's 10 per chicken. And it sounds like the shed exceeds that. And the same with the run. Oh, no, for the coop, it's 4 square feet per hen.
Yeah,
So
again, easy.
it's a minimum of 24 square feet, which you
Quite a
don't
lot.
find many sheds
Yeah,
that are that small. And it's 10 square feet per run, per hen per run.
right.
Is that a minimum? That's a minimum or max? Is there a
Those are
maximum?
minimums.
That's the minimum.
Minimums.
There is no maximum.
No.
Well, with the setbacks, it would be your yard, and they have to be in the side or rear yard. So, but
Oh.
effectively, no.
Okay.
And if you want to build a run that big to protect, if it fits in your property.
Right.
These were listed as use variances. Is that the case here, or is this an area variance?
Well,
Yeah, that's
my
a good
understanding.
question.
It's the use variance because it's taking a non-conforming, non-compliant existing structure, right, and using it for another purpose. Right, Tom? That's what we decided.
Yeah, I thought that's what we decided. It is an accessory structure existing, right?
Yeah.
But my understanding when we talked about that is that it was less than the 10-foot setback.
I think what we're looking at, if I interpret this correctly, and I looked through this quite a bit this afternoon, the use falls under the permit to have a chicken coop. And as long as they follow the chicken coop law, that's their use. So we're not doing a use variance. We're doing an area variance within the chicken coop law.
Okay.
The chicken coop law has setbacks, and we're going to give a variance for that setback, which to me is an area variance
Okay, great.
within the law.
Okay, so change it.
I think we'll follow the rules for area variance.
Yeah.
The five
Okay,
five
great.
procedures.
Because if it is a use
Okay.
variance, then we need a lot more information about financial hardship, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've looked at
I
it
don't
from the
disagree.
because what we're
Okay.
looking at is a setback. The use comes in following all the guidelines for the entire chicken coop law, of which there's 4
Okay.
pages. So,
Okay,
and this is just one part of that. They're only asking for one variation to that law, it appears, because it's a legal use. And so other questions, gentlemen? What we're looking at is a variance of basically from 10 feet to 0 in setback. And the unique part of it is their neighbor is wanting to do this with them. So you could say the neighbor who is most affected by this is in total agreement.
So I have a question or concern in terms of how we might word this so that, let's say, if the neighbor sold the property or whatever, that it's not implied that by receiving this variance that that the chicken permit would be somehow implied, because it's a renewal every year, but the variance doesn't get renewed every year. Only the chicken permit gets renewed. So the concern would be that somebody would just assume that they could receive the variance, therefore they could always have chickens. So I think
have the coop where it's located.
Yeah, exactly. If a neighbor objected, let's say the neighbor sells their property and then they object in the future to this, to the permit of it, it's more than just the permit, it's the actual location of it. So fully in support of this. So it's really just a question of making sure we get the language right to prevent any future complications. Or, yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. Those are my concerns.
I mean, is it possible, as Tim suggested, to put a stipulation on the variance that it is only renewed if the permit is renewed?
you can do a condition of approval, right?
I think if we put into, let me see, they have put in an agreement for shared responsibility. I think if we include that agreement for shared responsibility as part of our variance, then in renewals, that shared responsibility document needs to be renewed as well. Because that would then, it locks it to the neighbor who's presently saying they'd like this to happen. but a new neighbor would have to sign off on that same thing. I don't know if we're getting into legal trouble, but we're only talking about chickens in our village, so.
That sounds like a good idea to me. So it's not the variance that ties it. It's actually this separate agreement.
Yes.
I like that.
I think that makes sense to me.
Yeah, because my understanding is the variance goes with the property forever. Once it's granted, it's tied to the property.
Yes. And that would be true, except we're dealing also with a renewal application. I think we want to tie the present circumstances to the renewals
Right.
so that they don't have to seek a variance every year in renewal. That would be counterproductive.
Right. So as long as we've got these two neighbors agreeing to this arrangement for the care of the chickens, we should be in good shape.
That's what I'm thinking. What do the rest of you think?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Sounds good to me.
That sounds good.
So let's walk through the 5, let me find them here. The 5 criteria for, and we'll walk through those, and then we'll get a motion that would also include the other issue, if it's going to be a positive motion, the other issue about the agreement. The first determination is, will an undesirable change be produced in the character of the neighborhood, or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by granting this variance?
I don't think it will.
No.
No.
No, it sounds like we're improving
Okay.
an underutilized area.
Okay, so
And
it's
there
a
is-
no on first one. Second criteria is whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance.
Well, they probably could, because they probably don't have to put the run where they're going to put it.
Yeah, I mean, they could, but if they're going to have shared use and help, then it's nice to have it closer. But so the answer is yes, they could. Does anybody agree with that? Yes?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
Whether the requested area variance is substantial?
I don't think it is.
I don't think so. It's an existing structure as well, with new a bit of the new run, but
Well, it's substantial in the sense that it's supposed to be 10 feet. We're going to 0.
Yeah.
So it's substantial. Yeses doesn't mean we don't grant a variance, but we're honest about it. It's you know, they're not asking for a foot. They're asking for all the feet, all 10 of them.
I agree. It's substantial.
So it's a yes. Part D, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood.
No.
I don't think so.
No. Okay. And is the alleged difficulty, the last one, self-created? Yes.
yes.
Mhm.
Well, the price of eggs, maybe it's not self-created. I don't know. Okay, so it's self-created. So Tammy, did you get all of those?
We got a 5.
Did Tammy leave? the
Sorry,
meeting?
my dogs were barking.
Thumbs up.
Did you get all of those rulings? Those
I did.
determinations?
Sorry,
That's fine.
I had to mute. My dog was barking.
Oh, that's fine. So can I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the area variance.
So that's a motion to allow them to build the chicken coop up to the property line?
Yes, with the stipulation that they maintain their user agreement between the two properties.
Okay. That they
And
maintain, and
Tim,
What's that?
you said have the coop up to the property line. We're talking the run up to
yeah, the
property
coop and run, the run. I misspoke. So the motion would be to allow them to have their run up to the property line while maintaining their written agreement with their neighbor
Yes,
that would be renewed annually.
correct. With the permit.
Right. So
Renewed annually with the permit.
okay, so can I ask just a technicality question?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when we renew our permit, we just make a copy of that agreement and attach it and turn it in.
Yes, I
Yep.
think they should re-sign it with the new date on it.
Okay, we can
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, just so they could just initial it with a new date on it. That would be fine. I think just to make sure that people are still in agreement.
It's a good idea.
Can I have a second?
I'll second to approve. This is
Okay.
my-
Tammy, do you have the motion in some form?
Yep,
You're good?
some form.
Okay, so we have a
Yeah.
motion to allow the run to go to the property line, contingent upon maintaining the agreement between the two property owners to be renewed annually with the chicken permit.
Correct.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Tim says aye.
Bill says aye.
Scott says aye.
Mike says aye.
Noah says aye.
Okay, motion
Thank
passed.
you.
Mark,
So,
enjoy your
Tim-
chicken.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Mark, just before we go.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that the zoning ordinance says if you build a fence higher than 6 feet or higher, it does require a building permit.
Good to know. Well, if we put those 8 feet poles 2 feet in the ground, we should be okay. We'll
You'll
let
be
you
fine.
we'll let you know how it goes.
Okay.
All right.
We want
Okay,
to run
so-
afoul of the law here.
He's been holding on to that one.
Oh, so good.
I have.
All right, so we're moving on to 18 Cayuga Street,
16,
16, 18 Cayuga Street.
and nobody's here.
Nobody's here to defend it?
Nope. Tom,
Hi.
when's the last time you talked to Jonathan?
A while. Hannah was going to be the agent for this because, this is all her doing, let's call it.
All right, let me see if I can get a hold of her real quick. So, do
Okay.
you guys want me to, or do you just want to move on?
It would probably be good to try just because I'm
Yeah.
going to drop off.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we're gonna kick Noah out.
Yeah, give it
Okay,
a
hang on.
shot.
Okay, I'll be right.
While she's doing that, I do wonder, has there been any conversation about maybe amending the chicken law to allow the sort of shared property boundary issue?
Yeah,
That would be a board of trustees issue.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's pretty rigid, actually. I've spoken with Monica Roth about it from Cooperative Extension, and she thinks that the minimum size is too large. She talks about chickens liking to be cozier than the 4 square feet per bird. So, there's stuff. And in the training section of it, there's nothing that refers to available online training. Certainly wasn't an issue then. It's a much larger issue now. I've been shown a couple of sites, look through them, that provide really much better than adequate training opportunities for folks wanting to do the chickens, and I've allowed that, but it would be nice to have that in the actual ordinance. And like with shared coops, can you have more than 6 hens? That is a neighbor issue, though, because the more birds, the more feed, the more opportunity for noise and smell, yada, yada, yada. And there are parts of the ordinance that, say you're not supposed to have them be stinking up the neighborhood and attracting rodents and what have you.
How many
Frank-
permits does the village have?
What's that, Phil?
How many permits has the village issued for chickens so far? Or how many current permits?
How many current permits are open? Probably 10.
Uh-huh.
Hey,
there's a
no, I was
limit,
just gonna
right?
say, I was on the original chicken committee that wrote the ordinance with Marty, and one other person, whose name I can't remember. And I think it'd be good to review it again, because that was just, we were just writing the first time, and if something
Mhm.
updated. Because I read through it today, and just we have chickens, and it just, some of the things didn't make total sense. But I do like the property line limitation, because, if you have, there is an odor to them on a real hot, when it's real hot out. So,
Yeah, it does seem though that in this particular situation, if you have two neighbors that are going in on it together, if that was written into the law, they wouldn't have to seek a variance.
no, I agree.
And this solution makes a lot of sense. A shared use agreement gets recorded with the permit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I agree.
Tammy, are you trying to get a hold of Hannah?
I've gotten a hold of Ben, and now I have to send a link to Hannah through her email. So
Should we start
They all
looking at this?
seem-
It sounds like it might be
They
a
sound-
happening thing.
yeah, she's coming. She's just waiting for me to send her the Zoom link. Everybody
Oh.
acted surprised.
So this one is also a variance to the chicken law as opposed to the zoning. Currently there are chickens in this coop that's on Mr. Ferrari's property, and it's a large coop. Ms. Carver would just like to house her chickens in that coop. So the variance on that would be the number of chickens allowed.
Right. I had trouble understanding what the property looks like, and I looked at these two maps, and I guess I'm the drawing one. I was kind of trying to figure out where all this was.
They're both down by the creek.
Yeah,
Down
got
by-
that.
Down by
Well,
Neff.
if the tax map had the driveway, it would have made it easier, but it doesn't. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's such a wacky property too. But Hannah says that little joggy do on the number 18 Cuga Street is not where the coop is.
But it sounds like it's less of an issue of the structure. It's just a quantity of chickens, right? That's really what we're
Correct.
looking at.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
When I was looking through the law, I don't know if it's written so clearly that whether or not the permit is going to the property or going to the person. You know what I mean? Like it may be, it's just when my first reading of it, it wasn't super clear. And I don't know, I would think the intent is that it goes with the property, but then again, it gets renewed every year. So is it really with the property or is it with the person? And if that's the case, I wonder if it matters.
Oh,
as much.
I think it's the property owner,
Right.
because you can't rent a property and have a chicken permit.
Right.
Let me figure what that is.
It's right on the first page. There should be a limitation of 1 permit per property. Permits shall be issued to only single-family residences on owner-occupied properties.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
I
feel
think
like
the idea is someone's not renting out space and putting a coop in there and having chickens. It's for
Or
their
if
own
it's
personal use.
If it's a quadplex, then all 4 want chickens.
Yeah.
Right.
Or Juniper Manor.
I should mention it to my mom. She probably will want some.
I feel like this could get sticky though. I mean, what if there's 4 neighbors that all want to house chickens in one coop, right? Then
Yeah.
you could
Yeah.
have, right? I mean,
But you could put a limitation on it, though. You could say 2 neighbors are allowed to do it. And if you rewrote the ordinance.
Right.
Or
Currently,
you could say,
they got to go through us. So
that's right.
You rewrote it.
You
Yeah,
could just say that.
So the reality is we're really only offering an adjustment to the permit for the property that it's on is 18 Cayuga Street. Is that correct?
16.
Yes. They're on 16, Carver's are on 18.
Well, then,
Okay, so who has the chicken coop? Carver's?
No.
No, Ferrari.
16.
The
Okay.
two houses down behind Napa, down the bank.
Okay, so I see these dotted lines shows that jog out there where 18 Cayuga. Okay. And this is 16 wrapping all around it.
Yes.
Is that correct? And the coop is on 16.
18.
Correct.
Or no, sorry, 16.
The coop is on 16.
On 16.
Sorry. Yeah.
So it's really okay.
We didn't have a count your chickens variance. Use is all I could come up with.
Oh, that's fine, Tammy. At least it's not a shed. We're not working on a shed.
So I'm probably missing something here, but so there are additional, the question is to bring in additional 6 chickens, but how many are there now?
6.
There are 6.
Okay.
Six.
Hannah's in, guys.
Okay.
Hannah's here. Hi, Hannah.
You're muted.
You're muted, dear. I'm going to unmute
There we
you.
go. Can you hear me now?
There you
Yes.
Okay.
go. Yep.
There she
Hi,
is.
Hannah.
Hey, Hannah.
I had a miscommunication. I did not realize I was supposed to be here tonight. So thank you. Sorry.
No worries. I know how to find you.
All right, so Hannah, tell us what you want.
So I would like to have 6 chickens. And my neighbor, Jonathan Ferrari, already has 6 and a coop and a pen. He's got everything. We're on really good terms. And our property lines are very weird. So his coop is essentially in my yard already. And he offered last year, he said, if you ever want to share this coop, we'd love to have 6 more chickens if you can get a permit. So we thought we would try to do that. We thought it would be very easy for me to just apply to get a permit, and it's turned out to not be, so apologies. Yeah. Had I thought we had to go before the ZBA, I don't know if we would have gotten this far, but here we are, so.
Okay. Let's open it to public comment, and then we'll just move through this. Can I have a motion to open to public comment?
I'll make a motion to open to public comment.
Can I have a second?
Bill will second.
All in favor,
Is
say
that you,
aye.
Phil?
Tim says aye.
Yes. Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
I,
Who's the test
Do we-
person?
Is there anybody out there for public comment, Tammy?
I see somebody trying to connect that says test, but I don't know what that is, and now it just went away. So
Okay. Can I have a motion to close public comment?
I'll make a motion to close public comment, Scott.
Can I have a second?
I'll second, Mike.
All in favor, say aye. Tim says aye.
Bill says aye.
Noah says aye.
Mike says aye.
Okay. Public comment is closed. The size, I'll ask this of Tom, the drawing that we have, Tom, are those dimensions showing 2 property lines, or?
I think we'll have to ask Hannah that one.
Hannah, we're looking at the chicken coop drawing and the driveway and all of that. How
Okay.
big is this chicken coop? And how big is the enclosure?
I don't recall off the top of my head, and I don't have the materials in front of me. I actually never even sent in the materials. It was, Jonathan said it was all recorded at the village already.
Do you know approximately how big? Because there's a stipulation of how large a coop needs to be. So for 12 birds, it would have to be 48 square feet, the coop, which would be like 6
if
by
I
8.
hold this up and
Oh, I mean, I don't know, like, for the actual size of the coop, I mean, I could go out and measure it. I thought Jonathan said that he sent those dimensions in and they're on record.
Tom is trying to hold them up. They are part of the record. I know that there's a way that I can send you guys stuff through this, but I don't have a clue how to do it.
Oh, don't kick us off.
So it's
by
in your
accident.
drop. Yeah, it's in your Dropbox, I believe.
Jonathan has assured me that it's big enough for an additional 6 chickens and more. The run is definitely big enough. The coop itself, it's a funny structure. It's got a pretty small footprint, but it's really tall. So my just guessing without actually going out and measuring it and having those numbers on, right here, I'd say it's probably like a 10 by 10, 10 by 12 box.
So like a garden shed size.
It's like a garden shed size, but it's really tall. And the nesting boxes are all up in the height of it.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Well,
Okay.
at 4 square feet per hen, that's certainly more than adequate in size. The sketch I have must be from Jonathan, shows setbacks to the driveway, and it must be the Huga Street that are well within it, but I think that's to the chicken coop itself as opposed to the yard.
Well, I'm assuming the setbacks are fine because you've already permitted this.
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
wondering of the size because we're talking about the issue of doubling the amount of chickens. So obviously the size needs to be appropriate.
Yeah, but extrapolating from the yard, the dimensions here, which aren't great, but I can extrapolate, that does seem adequate for the yard and way more than adequate for the coop.
Okay. Okay.
I think in this is another point where cubic feet is probably more important than square footage for chickens, because you could have a really small footprint, but as long as it's tall enough to have the roosting boxes, you're probably okay.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, because you can stack them.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're talking about is a variance that would allow double the amount of chickens. Am I assuming, let me look at the tax map again, there's no other properties anywhere connected?
No, it's a
The
funny
village.
space. Yeah. There are no other
The village
properties
of Bus.
connected.
Right.
What's that?
Okay.
The village owns the bank that
No, they
goes
don't.
between.
They don't own the bank. Jonathan owns the bank.
Oh, that's right. We sold it to Jonathan. So yeah, he's good.
Right.
Yeah, they're only up against themselves.
Okay. So there's no other properties, it just goes up to the road and that's the embankment and then the stream down the other end. Okay. Gentlemen, what questions do you have? Or does somebody want to make a motion and we'll walk through, or we want to walk through the 5 criteria?
I guess I have a similar question to the last one in that, is there a requirement of some sort of shared use agreement or something that would, if this variance is granted and then the ownership changes, we want to make sure that Jonathan doesn't think that he still gets 12 chickens.
Okay.
Right? So is there some, again, how do we word that it's, and of course it's renewed every year, so maybe it's not really an issue.
I think we want both names on the renewal. I think we want this as a two-party permit. I don't know that it necessarily needs, and maybe they both need to have their own individual permits, but they're combined into the single property so that, yes, it's renewed. So again, like you said, if Hannah decides she doesn't want chickens, he doesn't get to just keep 12 because he's gotten 12 already. That it's kind of a shared agreement. So I think we could put that, I think we can certainly put that in there. And whether we make it a shared agreement as a letter, which was the last one, where there's only one permit, or we ask them just to do each their own permit. Each year, their renewal.
Either that or it's a shared permit that they both sign or something like that.
And That's fine. Those 3 different ways to do it. That's fine.
I'd
Let's
like
walk through.
them each
Go
having
ahead.
their own permit, because that would take care of the problem. That wouldn't that take care of the problem? It'd be really like the other variance we gave. Oh no, the other, are they just having, they're just having one permit on that one, but there's only 6 chickens. But that would,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have to worry about the number then.
I think that would be good to make it clear to have individual permits for the 16 and 18 Hugo Street. So
Yes.
there's no question about who's, well, they can fight over whose chickens they are, but in terms of the village, that, okay, there's 12 chickens there, 6 are Ms. Graper's and 6 are Mr. Ferrari's.
Yes,
And
I
then
think
if
there should be.
I think, and that would address the case if one of them decided not to have chickens anymore. The other one couldn't say, well, I could just get these 12 in here and we're all good.
Right. No, I think it should be kept that it's 6 and 6. And simply they're sharing the location of the coop, and not the responsibility of only having 6 chickens.
So then really the area variance that we're giving just a property line issue? I mean, is that all what it really is?
No, this is a variance. This is a variance to the chicken law. Well, that's a good question. We're either giving a variance to the 1 permit to have 12 chickens, or we're giving a variance to the 1 permit not having a coop on their property.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on whether it goes to court. Who would argue what the case would be?
Somebody has to own, I mean, Hannah, whose property is the coop on? You said it's
on Jonathan's property.
on his property. So,
Yeah.
Sorry, I wonder if just the fact that you said that out loud, that there are 2 scenarios, and we discuss the support of both scenarios, no matter which one we vote for, doesn't that help defend a court situation in the future? Because even if somebody threw it out and you did it over again, we probably would, the result would be the same.
Yeah, I think we want to make it the cleanest way possible.
Right.
I think probably the cleanest way to do this would be similar to the last one, because the coop is all on one property. They're not overlapping a property. So on one property is, we give the ability of the one property to have 12 chickens based on a statement of agreement between the 2 property owners. A statement of agreement of the 2 property owners that goes with the renewal of the permit each year. That's the reason they get the 12 chickens, because these 2 property owners are in agreement.
Should we put something about contiguous in there? Otherwise, somebody on Bradley
contiguous
Street.
properties. That's a good point. But we're putting a variance on this one single property. We're not making an adjustment to the law that anybody can come and just do this.
Well, there's a little bit of precedent, but yeah.
no, but I think what they're doing actually makes sense. So we should think about sharing it, owning a chicken coop and knowing what it costs. You're about $50 a dozen till you hit 20 years. So sharing the cost of a coop makes perfect sense. So I think people are going to want to do this more often. So we should look at changing the ordinance to allow for it, because I think it makes sense,
But maybe the best way to do it is these shared agreements, written shared agreements that are renewed with the permit.
Yeah, that would work.
The fact that there's only one coop that Tom's going to go by every year and look at doesn't seem to me there needs to be 2 permits to pay for that, because he's only looking at one coop.
Sure.
Just because you're looking at 12 chickens doesn't mean it takes him that much more time.
I have to count up to 12 then. That's twice the counting.
You got to go to your toes.
Is that onerous for you though, Tom, to have to keep track of stipulations on, if there were 25 permits in the village and each permit had a different stipulation of
That's a
various
whole other
agreements
discussion.
Well, I think if we are asking for a written agreement that is signed, like in the last one, for this one, a written agreement, that's part of his permit packet. So when they go to renew the packet, he looks to see that it's similar to the last one. And he's saying, well, to renew this, you also need this signed written agreement again. So, reinitial it with new dates. You know what I'm saying? So he's going to know because it's in the packet of the permit. Unless they change the law. Let's walk through the 5 determinations, please. The first one, will an undesirable change be produced in the character of the neighborhood?
No.
No.
Will the benefits sought by the applicant, can it be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant other than the variance?
Probably.
Well,
They could
yeah,
put in
they
their
can
own
build
coop.
their own
Their own
coop.
coop.
Well,
Is the
actually,
request,
they can't because
What's
they
that?
don't own the property.
Even on
They'd
their
have to.
The property owner could get a permit and
yeah,
I mean, they could do, it just has to be in someone else's name as it is
Well,
in this
the
case,
way
right?
the law's written now, no.
Oh.
You
Owner
have to
occupied.
Live owner
Okay.
occupied is the operative.
okay.
Okay.
So they can't get this in any other way. Is the requested area variance substantial? Yes, you're doubling chickens. Substantial.
Yeah.
Is the proposed variance going to have an adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood?
No.
No. Is the alleged difficulty self-created?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Any other questions before I entertain a motion? Who would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, Noah, to approve the variance for doubling the chickens.
Contingent upon a written agreement
Yes, exactly.
submitted with the permit renewal?
Yep.
Can I have a second?
Phil will second the motion.
So the motion is to allow, who was the owner? Just put my
Jonathan
paper.
Ferrari.
Jonathan.
Ferrari.
It would allow Jonathan to have 12 chickens with the renewal of the permit based upon a written agreement between the two property occupants. That's the motion.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor say aye. Tim says aye.
Phil says aye.
Scott says aye.
Mike says aye.
Noah says aye.
Motion is passed.
Thanks, guys.
So you understand what we're asking for with the agreement?
So you need a written agreement on record.
Yeah, dated on record. And then I don't know where the renewal is on the present chicken coop, but when you're getting ready to get 6 more chickens, I would think you need to do a renewal then with the agreement. When you want to add the actual chickens, that's when you'll, even if it's not due, I think the prudent thing is you make the renewal then.
So Jonathan renews then?
He would renew it. Maybe you're going to pay for it because you're trying to get the chickens. I don't know
Right.
what it costs or anything. But then that's when you'd have the agreement letter that would go into that. That way it would give us that start date for this new approach.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful.
And excellent. Thank you for coming on, Hannah.
Thank you. And I'm sorry that I was late and didn't realize I was supposed to be here.
No problem.
Okay.
No problem.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
I'm gonna sign out now. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye, Hannah.
Hannah.
Yeah.
Aye.
Bye.
All right, we're moving on. And is Noah leaving us? Is that who's leaving us?
Yeah, I'm gonna recuse myself because I'm working with Kira and John on this project. And just to look to them for a minute, I'm assuming you guys are okay and comfortable representing yourselves tonight.
Thanks.
But I'm gonna drop off because I think that's what you're supposed to do.
It is public, right? You can stay and watch, but you just
Yeah.
can't vote.
I could, but I think it's
Tim.
probably better to just.
Tim,
Yeah.
Yes, Tammy.
Tim, can I get just a couple minutes? We got kicked off live, off YouTube channel, and I'm getting beat up over here. So give me just a minute.
Just
if
let
you
us
would,
know when you're ready to
please.
go.
Thank
All
you,
right.
dear.
Well,
I'll
see
be
you
back.
guys all later.
All right, Noah,
Bye,
thank you.
Noah.
Yep, good luck.
All right, I can't get it back up, so move on. Sorry.
Okay, let's begin 11 Kentucky Avenue. Kira, tell us what you want to build.
Great. I'm Kira, and this is my partner, John, who lives here together. We have a one-car garage, which is totally defunct. It is half a foot off the ground. The concrete is totally erupting. It's just totally unusable, floods. And there is a mudroom, so-called, that just connects that garage area to the house. So essentially, to make something usable, to have a usable garage there, we have to start over. So we want to take that structure down, and we'd like to replace it with a mudroom and an actual usable middle area, and expand it to a 2-car garage. So we're asking for a variance because the house was built before the 50-foot variance was in effect. And so just extending out the existing house with a little wiggle room violates the current zoning. So with our application we submitted, it included letters from our neighbors who are all in full support and who all have structures that are some or much closer to the property line than ours would be. We are at the end of the street, at the end of a dead end. So we just have our sort of forward on the street neighbors. So we've included the plans. I'm not sure what else would be helpful to say or just to answer questions, but we appreciate your consideration.
How far from the outside side of the garage, the farthest from the house, how far is that from your property line?
About 25 feet. That's what the architect estimated. Yeah, that's the closest it gets.
And how far are you from the creek over there? Isn't it right near the creek, right?
We're actually on a ridge.
We're on the ridge, but our land,
It's a ridge. The creek is not there.
the creek is below.
It's below, so it's a pretty steep, right by the house, it's a pretty steep drop. So I'd say in feet, it's probably, like if the creek was on level ground with the house, it would probably be 50, 70 feet. It's the
yards.
The operative dimension here is from the edge of the bank, let's call it, where it drops off to the creek. The creek doesn't really matter in that measurement. It's the edge of the bank. So if you can.
You
Have
mean
you
the
looked at
distance?
Tom, have you looked at the property to see what that distance is to the edge of the bank? Is there sufficient
I've
space there?
looked at the property and I haven't pasted off or anything.
So if you mean the distance from the edge of the garage to the ridge, is that what you mean, where it drops off? It will come about 3.5 feet from the edge of the ridge. The house is just positioned very close to the edge. So that's actually why we were going to turn it on the angle, is to run alongside that ridge edge.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I drove out to your property to look at that, and I noticed that you didn't. The zoning law talks about property line and how far the building can be away from that, and it's 15 feet. But if your property goes down the embankment and you have the sufficient distance, then that's not really an issue. I don't think we have an issue for us personally, about how close you are to an embankment if the builder feels you can safely. That'd be our code enforcement officer to make sure the building doesn't fall off in an earthquake.
Yeah.
Right, Tom?
We don't want that, that's for sure. So
we don't want that either.
Are you altering the footprint of the existing garage? I apologize, I haven't gone thoroughly through your building permit application section of this.
Okay. We are right now, it's a 1-car garage, and we'd like to expand it to a 2-car garage. So it is expanding by, say, 10 more feet.
Into our backyard.
Is it moving it closer to the house or the property line?
It's closer to the front property line. If you look at the drawings, you can tell that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it would
You might see what I'm trying to do. Keep
It
talking while you do that so we can see it.
It looks like you have approximately 25 feet from the front property line. And the setbacks are 50, but your house is presently, what, about 36, it says.
Yeah.
But that was prior to the zoning law. Okay.
Right.
All right. Gentlemen, you have other questions for the applicant right now?
I don't have any more questions.
Let's open it for public comment. Can I have a motion for public comment?
I'll make a motion for public comment. This is Mike.
Can I have a second?
I'll second the motion, Phil.
All in favor say aye. Tim says aye.
Phil says aye.
Scott says aye.
Mike says aye.
Anybody there, Tammy, that we are aware of?
No, we're good, thanks.
Can I have a motion to close public comment?
I'll make a motion to close the public comment. This is Scott.
Can I have a second?
I'll second it. It's Phil.
All in favor say aye. Tim says aye.
Phil says aye.
Scott says aye.
Mike says aye.
Okay, so what it looks like is what we're looking at is simply a variance from the front setback from what is approximately 36 feet that it presently is to 25 feet. If you guys have looked at the other documents related to the other garages that are on Kentucky, one is 21 feet, one is 30 feet, one is approximately 5 feet from their property line.
Yep.
If you look at the zoning ordinance section 304 frontage exceptions, it says you kind of take the average of the frontage on the 2 lots next to it and kind of see where it fits. This doesn't actually have that because they're on the opposite side of the street from everybody else, it looks like.
There's also no house on the other side.
Exactly. It's a small neighborhood, but their garage is not going to be out of line with what the others appear to be doing. I don't know. Does that seem like a fair assessment?
Yeah, I mean, I went over there too, and there's not that many houses on the road. There's the last house on the street.
Yeah.
So the setback, in that case is somewhat arbitrary.
Yeah, exactly. I think the drawings you have of your house look very nice. I think it's gonna be a great addition.
Yes.
Let's walk.
No, it's
let's
left,
walk through
Tim.
the
You don't
5
have to
determinations.
compliment him.
What? We're not supposed to compliment him?
No, Noah has left. So
No. Maybe you can get a really poor builder and it'll come out really crummy.
not with me around.
Let's go through the 5 determinations. Will an undesirable change be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties?
No.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Can the benefits sought by the applicant be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue? I don't think so. If they to get a 2-car garage, I don't see how else you could do that in a feasible way.
Well, they can't do it. They could move the garage. They have to eliminate the mudroom. Looking at the diagram, so
Yeah.
change it somehow. But
Or you'd have to connect it to another part of the house, and I noticed in their plan it'd require them to put it in like where their dining room is, and that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to do that. Make them redo the whole house. Is the requested area variance substantial? It's a 50% variance, but it's not a 50% from where they presently are. It's only about 10 feet from where they presently are.
I think it's not based on the existing structure. It seems like it's not that significant.
Yeah, I don't.
I agree.
Will the proposed variance have an adverse effect on the impact of the physical or environmental conditions? Tom, is there issues related to it being so close to that embankment and the stream below?
Well, that's the only concern I would have. That's why I was asking the questions about the footprint of the existing structure. Certainly, if you're working off the footprint of the existing structure, then your pre-existing non-compliant rolls in. If you start pushing on the edge of that, then you don't fall into that category. So, you know, back to that, where the, let's see, the new structure would be, how far is the closest of that to the edge of the stream bank? And
The
we're
edge
not talking
of the stream bed?
bank.
The top of the ridge.
Yeah.
There would be about 3.5 feet between the garage edge and, you know, I mean, it's a soft, you know, sort of ridge edge. So, but it's, you know, he drew it so that there would be a 3.5 foot area to, you know, be able to really, I mean, that was more like a functional concern. I think also that, you know, I don't think he was aware, or we've been aware that there is a concern about, or a rule about being so close to the ridge edge. So well,
we don't want it. So we thought about it, and of course the architect thought about it and how that ridge could wear away and stuff like that. So I think the reason for it being 3.5 feet, you know, gives us enough. We were going to put a little, you know, so we could walk around it and stuff like that. So it just we wouldn't be right on the ridge. So we didn't want to be right on the ridge. So 3.5 feet from the ridge, we felt pretty comfortable with the structure being there. So it wouldn't fall down the ridge or turn an earthquake or anything like that. So
what's the requirement for being, or like how far away from the stream edge or the riparian buffer needs to be, you know, like they're not infringing on that, right?
Well, here, let's see. The riparian buffer, and that's the technical term for what we have there, will begin at the top of the stream bank, which you are referring to as ridge, and extend a minimum of 50 feet horizontally, measured in a direction directly perpendicular to the stream bank in a horizontal plane.
So how far away from the stream is the garage edge?
You know,
From the stream
from
itself.
the stream edge, it is, you know, we didn't measure that out. We know that the architect did look at if it would violate in any way the stream bed kind of area that you're, you know, not supposed to build on. So I know that in his looking at it, it didn't violate that, but I can't say off the top of my head how many feet exactly is it. It's a substantial area.
It's all the way down the ridge, which is probably 50 feet. The ridge is probably 40, 50 feet.
Would it help to look at the survey of the property? Because I do.
Is the stream on the survey?
Tax map isn't helping me.
Yes.
So maybe. And
Okay, yeah. We just have the tax map.
If you folks could do me a favor and refer to it as the stream bank and not the ridge. To me, the ridge is like a peaky thing that is the top of added structure, not the edge of what goes down to the stream. That's my own weakness, wanting to use the terminology we have here in our ordinance.
It's listed on the plan as top of bank too.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what to do except to try to just measure it. I'm not sure exactly how many feet the garage edge is from the stream bank edge.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that the architect had looked at that and cleared it, so I can only imagine that it's within the allowed space, you know, that we're farther away than that, but I'm not sure the number of feet off the top of my head unless we run out and try to measure it.
Well, the issue at stake here in the fourth determination is, will there be an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood? Is this garage, I'm looking at which way,
So,
I mean,
so Google Maps says 234 feet from the stream to the existing garage.
Great.
Oh, thanks for looking that up, Phil.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, the question I had, you know, for Tom was, you know, on a construction standpoint, is this too close to an edge that's going to cause a problem, that's going to cause a physical or environmental problem? You know, I mean, I'm assuming the architect is not going to have him build a garage that's going to fall down because it's too close to the edge. But you're saying that it's 200 and some feet from the stream?
Yeah, that's approximately 230 feet.
Yeah. And this is a more gentle slope that goes down? It's not like a steep ridge like in some of the other parts of the village?
I can't tell.
And near the house, it is a steeper ridge.
It's gentle on the
in parts.
in parts, but that part is pretty steep.
I mean, you could still walk down it. I mean, it's all, you know,
or roll down it.
Yeah.
But at 200 feet, it can't be really steep, or we're talking really deep then if it's 200 feet away.
Well, it might come down to a flat close, like, you know,
It does.
Because it's just an
Okay.
overflow basin for the stream, right? So.
Okay. Well, that's what I was wondering. Is it can't possibly be steep or one slope for all of that distance, or you'd be talking,
Right.
you know, Tacanic Gorge.
Right. No, it drops down, and then we have like an acre of land near the creek.
Okay.
With the creek.
With the creek.
With the creek.
So, gentlemen, on determination number 4, letter D, adverse effect or impact on the physical environment, yes or no?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Is the alleged difficulty self-created? Yes.
Yes.
It's self-created. Can I have a motion? Or if you have more comments or discussion?
Could I add a little bit?
Yeah.
You can.
I can?
Yeah, we don't
So,
have to listen.
Well, yeah, that's right. That's your prerogative. So I want to just be able to confirm that this proposed structure does fall in the parameters of our stream buffer, riparian buffer, I guess it would be. So I would say, and obviously we're not going to be able to do it here. I did go onto Google Maps and look at it, and I think Phil was good with figuring, okay, here is something that pretty well looks like it's more than adequate setback, but can we have whatever proposal, if it's positive, or determination, if that's positive, that it was contingent on me confirming that it indeed meets these requirements?
I'd absolutely agree with that. You know, I mean, I don't think that we want to grant a variance if this is out. I mean, because then it needs to go through seeker and a lot of other things that we're not really ready to rule on, right?
Yeah, there's the proverbial mess of stuff or can of worms, whatever you want to do. But certainly in the Google Maps, I think we're good, but that's not always as accurate. And
yeah.
Tom, in the process of, let's say there was no variance and they were just issuing you were just issuing a building permit. In the building permit process, would you have been looking at the stream buffer because there's a stream there anyway in the building process?
Yeah, that would be, well, that would be part of the zoning on it, but yes.
So if there wasn't a variance, you'd be looking at that issue anyway.
Correct.
So our variance is for the setback to the front property line. We're not giving a variance to any stream buffer.
Well, that's a really good point there, Tim. So yeah.
So we can give a variance for the front setback, and then if you find in your building process that there's also an issue with the stream buffer, then we can return and look at that.
That's true.
Correct. Although,
and then if there's not an issue, then we don't have to look at it at all.
Would that fall under site plan? I'd have to look at that a little more in depth.
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate that. That's it.
I don't think we can deal with stream buffer and a variance.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be our purview anyway, but they're asking for the front setback.
Right.
Correct. And I think you're right in saying that that doesn't have to be determined on it. When you say, pretend the ZBA grants this variance, then I'll go back to the application, review it, and the map, oh gosh, I have to take a look at that. If it is within that setback area, then I would have to bring that up. If it's not, we're good to go. I've already reviewed the construction plans and drawings. They look all fine.
Well, and I think also in a stream, when you talk about the definition for the buffer, where does the bank of the stream actually occur? Does it occur closer to the stream and then there's kind of a level portion and then the hill keeps going up? I mean, you could say if the elevation continues to rise a little bit, you could make the bank of the stream 10 miles away if it all goes uphill. See what I'm saying?
Well,
So
yeah, there's verbiage on what determines the bank.
Right. So that would fall under your purview in reviewing the building permit anyway.
When it's kicked to the zoning officer.
Okay. So can we get a motion on the request for a setback variance for the front setback?
I'll make a motion to grant the front setback to what is it, 25 feet that they're
25 feet.
25.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to grant the setback change to 25 feet.
Okay, can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Questions? So the motion is to allow a setback of 25 feet for the front setback for the garage. All in favor say aye. Tim says aye.
Phil says aye.
Mike says aye.
Tammy said who made second?
Mike said second.
Mike said second.
Thank you.
That's an aye.
That's an aye. It's a unanimous carried. The variance is granted. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Can I just clarify what our next steps will be? Because we did submit these initial drawings, but we've been waiting to actually do the detailed drawings in case there were changes we needed to make. So Tom, can you look at that bank edge? I don't know if we should submit more of the permit application with these drawings to have you look at the embankment, or if you want to look at that first and then we'll submit, or I'm not sure kind of our next steps.
I'd like to save you the expense of going ahead with any additional drawings now that I have a better idea of the lay. If it works with you all, I could go out sometime tomorrow and take a look, say,
Great.
okay, this looks good, or well, we're really going to have to do something here.
Thanks, Tom.
Sure, no
Thank
problem.
you.
It's part of my
Okay.
job.
We appreciate it.
So if you all want to be there, if there's any better time for you, let me know. If not, if I have your permission just to come out sometime during the day and poke around outside,
You
it's
got
also
our
should be
permission.
pretty obvious. I'm familiar enough with your property.
Yes, you are. You've been out several times already. So you come out whenever you feel.
Okay. So, and if you are going to be around and want to be able to talk with me, just let me know when you think that would work.
Yeah, I'll be here in the morning. So if you want to
Okay.
come anytime before 12:30, I'll be around.
Okay. Okay. And I'll send you an email letting you know when I'm heading out.
Okay, great.
They'll give you about 3 minutes warning.
All right, Tammy, do we have any other business?
Nope, I got a planning board meeting at 7:30. Wrap it up.
Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Brad, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I have a second.
I'll second it. Phil will second it.
All in favor, say aye. Tim says aye.
Phil
Aye.
says aye.
Mike says aye.
Very good. Thank you,
all.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye, John.
Good evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Have
Bye,
an
Tom.
awesome next meeting, Tammy.
Bye, Tom.
All right, see you in a minute, Tom.
Me?
Are you coming to the planning board meeting?
Was I invited?
Well, yeah.
Oh. Huh.
Okay,
Uh-oh.
well, I'm going to the other screen. You don't, I mean, they're just introducing Michelle, basically. They're not doing a whole lot.
Okay. Yeah, I
But
didn't
I
get
don't know
anything.
But I don't know if they're gonna wanna talk about that wetland buffer zone baloney down at the,
Well, shoot. And I was looking at